You've seen it in the movies, right? The sudden personality shifts, the hidden identities, the drama. But what if I told you that the Hollywood version of dissociative identity disorder, or DID, gets, well, almost everything wrong? So today, we're going to separate the fiction from the fact and get to the real human story behind this condition. So is it all just scary plot twists and villains in waiting? The answer is a huge, resounding no, not even close. In fact, the reality is not only different, it's often the complete opposite. And getting that difference is the first, most crucial step. All right, let's pull back the curtain. If it's not what we see on screen, what is dissociative identity disorder, really? Okay, so at its core, DID is a mental health condition where a person has two or more distinct identities or personality states. They're often called alters. Now, really think about that for a second. This isn't just about being in a bad mood. We're talking about completely distinct identities, sometimes with their own memories, their own preferences, their own way of being, all coexisting in one person. And here it is. This is the single most important thing to get. If you remember one thing, make it this. DID is not about pretending. It's a deeply complex, involuntary way the brain protects itself from severe, unbearable trauma. It's not a choice, it's a shield. To really wrap our heads around DID, we have to understand the key mechanism behind it. And that's a word you might have heard before, dissociation. Put simply, it's a mental disconnect. It's like the brain hitting an emergency escape button when reality just gets to be too much. And that might sound really intense or abstract, but here's the thing. Dissociation is actually a spectrum. And in its milder forms, it's something pretty much all of us have experienced. You know when you're driving and you suddenly kind of snap back and realize you don't remember the last few miles? Or maybe you've been so lost in a good book that the whole world just faded away? Yep, that's it. That's a mild form of dissociation. It's your brain basically going on autopilot for a minute. But, and this is a really big but, for someone with DID, that dial is turned all the way up. We're not just talking about zoning out. We're talking about major gaps in memory, actual amnesia, a deep feeling of being detached from yourself and your own body. And of course, the switching between identities. It's the brain's survival tool, absolutely, but it comes at an incredibly high cost. So that brings us to the biggest question of all, right? Why? Why would the human brain develop such an extreme and extraordinary coping mechanism? Well, the science is very, very clear on this. The vast majority of DID cases come from one place: severe, repeated trauma during the critical developmental years of early childhood. This is a time when a child's sense of self is just beginning to form, making them incredibly vulnerable. And we're not talking about a single bad day here. We're talking about situations of ongoing abuse, extreme neglect, or other terrifying events. You have to imagine, for a small child who has no physical escape, the mind creates a mental one. It builds walls to lock away the trauma so that another part of the person can just keep going. And this really gets to the heart of it. We have to completely flip the script on how we see this. DID is not a weakness. It is a powerful, creative, and frankly brilliant testament to a brain's resilience in the face of the impossible. It's a survival strategy. Now, of course, because of all that sensationalism, there are a ton of myths floating around about DID. So it's time we do a little myth busting. Let's start with the biggest one, the idea that people with DID are dangerous. This is almost entirely a creation of movies. The sad, tragic irony is that research shows people with DID are overwhelmingly more likely to be victims of harm, not perpetrators. This myth is incredibly damaging. Okay, next myth, that DID is super common. You know, with social media and pop culture, it might feel like it's everywhere, but a clinical diagnosis of DID is actually very rare. While it's great that there's more awareness, it can sometimes give us a skewed idea of how prevalent it is. Here's another one. Oh, it's just really intense mood swings. Nope. A mood swing is a change in feeling within one consistent person. DID involves shifts between completely different states of identity. Think of it like this. A mood swing is the weather changing. DID is the entire landscape changing. They're not in the same ballpark. And finally, the big mix-up. DID and schizophrenia. People confuse them all the time, but they are fundamentally different disorders. DID is a dissociative disorder about a fragmentation of identity. Schizophrenia is a psychotic disorder often characterized by things like hallucinations. Confusing the two isn't just wrong, it can lead to really serious consequences in treatment. So, after debunking all that, where does this leave us? What does the future look like for someone with DID? Let's talk about the path forward, because healing is absolutely 100% possible. And let this be the message that really sticks with you. There is so much hope. With the right support and specialized long-term therapy, people with DID can and do live healthy, successful, and fulfilling lives. It's a tough road for sure, but recovery is a real, tangible thing. So what does that healing journey look like? Well, it usually starts with long-term therapy with a professional who really gets it. A big goal is to help the different identities, the alters, to communicate and cooperate, to work as a team. And then, of course, it involves carefully processing the original trauma in a safe way and learning grounding skills to stay present in the here and now. Which brings us to the final and maybe most important question. What about us? What can you, as a friend, a family member, or just a fellow human being, actually do to help? And you know what? The answer is incredibly simple, but also incredibly powerful. It's not about being a therapist or trying to fix someone. It's about offering the most basic things: respect for their experience, kindness and how you treat them, and a genuine effort to understand. And really, it all boils down to this. A mental disorder is never, ever someone's fault. It's not a character flaw. It's a health condition just like any other. And it deserves empathy, support, and care. So the next time you hear a story about DID, I hope you'll remember that. You're not looking at a plot twist, you're looking at a survivor.